We have long been told that growing our own food is a civic duty, a practical way to build resilience when the economy gets tough. That historical expectation still drives a lot of us today. We look at an empty patch of grass and imagine a lush, idyllic backyard harvest, requiring nothing more than a little weekend sunshine. Then reality hits. You spend $100 on supplies, only to end up with a patch of withered weeds by mid-July. Beginner failure often stems from a sea of contradictory advice. Even trusted experts conflict on the most basic question: which crops are actually easy? Take radishes. One gardening blog calls them the ultimate foolproof starter crop. Another warns they are finicky and suggests avoiding them entirely your first year. In reality, easy is a myth. There is no universal standard for an effortless vegetable. Every crop requires a trade-off between the speed of the harvest, the volume of food produced, and the plant's resilience. Your physical environment and personal lifestyle dictate your success long before you open a seed packet. Consider the impatient beginner. If you lose interest in projects quickly, you need a rapid psychological win to stay engaged with the garden. Then there is the space-constrained optimizer. You might only have a third-floor balcony or a tiny patio, meaning every square inch of sunlight must count. Or the time-poor gardener. You want maximum caloric output, but you only have a few spare minutes on weekends to do the work. To figure out what you should actually plant, we are going to use this matrix. We will evaluate the most popular starter crops based on 3 clear metrics: speed, volume, and resilience. Guaranteeing a first harvest requires matching a crop's specific brand of easy to your exact constraints. If your biggest hurdle is patience, radishes are your confidence crop. This timeline illustrates exactly why. While a standard vegetable like a tomato or pepper takes 60 to 90 days to produce fruit, a radish goes from a dry seed to a harvestable root in about 25 days. In less than a month, you are pulling bright, crisp food directly out of the ground. That quick, tangible reward builds immediate momentum. But there is a strict environmental catch. Radishes are extremely sensitive to heat. If the soil gets too warm, the plant panics and sends up a tall flower stalk, a process called bolting, turning the root tough and bitter. The second trade-off is volume. A radish has low caloric density, and you only get 1 root per seed. To get a meaningful amount of food, you must practice succession planting, sowing a new row of seeds every 10 to 14 days. Radishes will not stock your pantry with heavy calories, but if you need proof that you can actually grow something from scratch, nothing beats them for buying psychological momentum. If you have physical yard space but very little free time, zucchini and summer squash are your high-volume champions. Biologically, these plants are aggressive. They put out massive leaves and rapid vegetative growth that will quickly overrun a small garden bed. This footprint comparison shows the mandatory input. While a root crop takes up an inch of soil, a mature squash mound requires 3 to 6 feet of physical space in full sun, rooted in nutrient-heavy compost. If you provide that space, they ask for almost nothing else except careful watering. If you water overhead and get the leaves wet, the plant is highly susceptible to a fungus called powdery mildew. You have to water the soil at the base. Zucchini will give you a dense amount of calories, to the point where you will be leaving bags of them on neighbors' porches. But that easy yield is entirely dependent on your ability to sacrifice a large footprint in your yard. For the gardener who frequently forgets to water and neglects their plants entirely, Swiss chard is your indestructible option. Chard is biologically rugged. It handles poor, rocky soil, tolerates deep partial shade, and survives freezing light frosts that would kill a Tupper plant. It also uses a cut-and-come-again harvesting cycle. You snip off the outer leaves for your dinner, and the center of the plant just keeps pushing out new growth for months. The cost of that resilience is time and weight. Chard has a slower initial growth phase than a radish, and leafy greens offer far fewer calories than a fruiting crop. It won't yield massive weight for your kitchen scale, but if you want a low-maintenance insurance policy that forgives your mistakes, chard is the answer. If you live in an apartment and only have a sunny balcony, growing potatoes in fabric grow bags is the ultimate engineering hack. This cross-section shows the mechanics of hilling. You start the seed potato at the bottom of the bag. As the green stem grows upward, you continue adding layers of soil, and the plant multiplies its tubers into those newly buried layers. The catch here is maintenance and cost. You have to buy multiple bags of quality potting soil, and because above-ground containers dry out rapidly in the wind and sun, you are locked into a strict, frequent watering schedule. But if you can keep up with the watering, this method converts a few square feet of vertical patio space into dense, heavy carbohydrates. The fastest way to fail is planting an aggressive vining squash on a tiny balcony, or trying to grow cool weather radishes in the dead of August. This decision tree shows where your constraints lead you, starting with one question. What is your biggest personal limitation? If you need a fast win, choose radishes. For limited physical space, choose grow bag potatoes. For limited time, choose zucchini or chard. Pick exactly one of these paths to start. Master the soil, water, and light inputs of that single crop before you try to expand. Treat gardening as an engineering problem. Align your biological inputs with your available space and time to produce a predictable harvest.